Hey there, my friends. This is Bill McDonald, the writing doctor, as you can see here on my writing folder that I'm going to design for you. You can buy these folders, manila folders, in sets of about 50 for less than $4 at Walmart. And what we're going to see in consecutive videos over several days is how to make a writing folder that takes your students to the emergency room of editing E, essay E, revising R, and reading R. And when you're doing reading and writing, you're working on development, organization, and conventions. Bugs Bunny used to say, "What's up, Doc?" So if you think of it that way, the development and the organization is the content, and the conventions is the grammar, the editing. So in 4 pages of this folder, all 4 sections, we're going to have an editing section, which we're going to see in today's video, an essay section, a section for reading, for content, and reading for comprehension and revising for content. So let's see how we can set up the folder. You can use whatever colors you want, but save a little space on the very top. This section is going to be the editing conventions C.U.P.S.S section. And make sure that you see here that C.U.P.S.S has C, U, 2 P's, and 2 S's. So what you'll do, if you can do it freehand like I did here, is draw a hand on the folder. Your students would write their name. Of course, you're the writing doctor, but they're going to all take their papers to the emergency room and play doc with them, develop, organize, and work on the conventions. So the first thing is probably using a black marker, crayon, or colored pencil. Draw a hand, and the cool thing about the test is your students will be able to draw their hand on test day, and if they draw this one this month, they'll be able to practice editing. So let's take a look at the question that's right underneath what this topic is about. If the question says, what change should be made in sentence blank, you're going to have your students underline the word change and make a little bracket around sentence. The reason it's better to make a bracket instead of underlining, if you have a sentence that has periods and commas, sometimes you're underlining those and making a mistake. So anytime it has change, it's going to be cups. And that's the first 4 fingers, the C, the U, the P, and the S. So let's find out what those are about. So you'll draw your fingernails and you'll write a C-U-P and an S for those first 4 fingers. And the C stands for capitalization. So I drew a little cap. When you wear a cap, it makes you look a little bit taller than you really are. So I would pretend to put on a cap with my hand kinesthetically, or I have quotation marks there where I could say capital right before I say the word that's capitalized. And the reason those 3 lines are there is that we underline capitals, proper nouns, and titles. So when your kids are on the phrase level, you can practice capitalization with them. But that could be one of the mistakes. The most difficult one is the U for usage. It's subject verb agreement. So think of every sentence S as a street S that you pave. So let's see what PAVE stands for? Well, if you have a subject, you got to decide, is it a singular or a plural subject? Is it simple or is it a compound subject? What I would suggest you do is use green. The subject is not always going to be the first word in the sentence, but I would suggest that whatever word is first, green stands for go, yellow stands for slow, and red stands for whoa. So you would circle the first word of the sentence. You would double check that you have a subject and a predicate. And since you're paving the street, the P stands for predicate, which is the A, the action, the V, the verb, and then you need an ending called a stop sign, called a period, an exclamation, or a question mark. Okay? When you're looking at the predicate, the things you've got to ask yourself, is it in past tense, this sentence, this predicate, this action, this verb? Is it present tense happening right now, or is it in future tense? And sometimes when you're doing editing questions, you can't always tell whether something is singular or plural, or whether it's past, present, or future from the sentence that you're on, the present sentence that you're on. So you might have to check the previous sentence by doing the Michael Jackson moonwalk. Eat, eat, eat. So if this is sentence 7, and they say what change should be made in sentence 7, you might have to check the previous sentence to see if it's past, present, or future. Or we can do another MJ, Michael J. Fox, check the following sentence to see if the sentence is in past, present, or future. That way you can use the correct predicate, action, or verb, or you can use the correct subject or the correct noun. A singular, plural is the person, the place, the thing, the idea, or the people, the places, the things, or the ideas. The next letter is P for punctuation. And I call this my fat guide. Whenever you're talking about punctuation, there are several that we can talk about. The one that we have on the bottom is the F of fat, and that stands for the floor. You would bounce an imaginary or real ball on the floor for a stop sign. Every time you get to the end of the sentence, you could circle these punctuations in red: period, exclamation, and question mark. The A stands for air, so those arrows are pointing up. Up in the air, you have apostrophes, you have contractions, and you have opening and closing quotation marks. Those would be up in the air. Why are they yellow? It's because you're not stopping the sentence. Excuse me. You're just slowing it down. Now, on the T, you need a shorter bounce for a shorter pause. So the T stands for table. One of the ones that you use for fourth grade and lower is a comma, and that's used for many reasons, and we get into all the reasons. When your students are on the sentence level, you'll practice punctuation. And I want to add these in now. If your students see one of these, they have to know that it's called a colon. That means the sentence is going to be followed, the independent clause is going to be followed by probably a little phrase that tells you a little bit more, or you might have a semicolon where it has an independent clause followed by another independent clause. You just won't use a capital. In fourth grade and lower, you would use a comma with a coordinating conjunction. And in fifth grade and higher, we use a semicolon. They don't test those typically in fourth grade. The last finger about what change is spelling. And too many kids don't understand that Spelling is about taking pictures and recording videos. So what we would do is on the fourth finger, number one would be taking a picture of it with your eyes. Number two, so that you can record a video, you're going to open your mouth and you're going to say the word syllable by syllable, chunk by chunk. And that way you can get to number three and number four where you're going to hear and listen to the word, sound it out. Maybe you can snap each syllable or you can clap on each syllable to count the number of syllables, because there's things like quite that has one syllable and quiet that has two syllables, and they look so close together that unless your kids read them out loud and hear and listen, they won't be able to know. Step five will be saying, I've got to go into my brain and think, has my teacher taught me a spelling rule, a spelling pattern for this type of spelling word? If she has, I'm going to apply that to this spelling word, this spelling mistake. If she hasn't, then the good thing is, for reading and for writing, you can go to two books. Step six, the first book is a dictionary. The other book is a thesaurus that you're allowed to use, but unfortunately some kids don't know how to use the alphabet correctly. So I suggest you teach your students to navigate the alphabet so that they can be able to use the books called a dictionary and a thesaurus. And real quick, I want to remind you that a couple years ago, the fourth grade had a prompt, read about one invention. Well, there were 24,000 zeros because the kids didn't know what an invention was. And what that tells me is they either A, didn't get taught science because it's not tested until fifth grade, or B, they didn't know how to use that book called a dictionary, so they had no idea what an invention was. So if you can make it through all these steps, see the word, say the word, hear and listen, use your brain, use the two books, you might be able to get to where you can write each spelling word. Now, the one that many of you leave out is the pinky. That second S is when the question is worded what I call TCBY, not the country's best yogurt, but it'll say, what is the correct way to write sentence, or what is the correct way to write sentences, or it might say, what is the best way to write sentences, blank and blank, or what is the best way to write sentence. And whenever it has best, sometimes that means that there's two pretty good choices, but one of them is better. So the S in this case stands for sentence boundaries. Your kids have to know that if it says, what is the correct or best way to write a sentence, singular, that it's either an RO, a run-on, where the sentence just keeps going, or it's a fragment that's missing the subject or the predicate and giving the reader what I call reader's whiplash. Right in the middle of a thought, there's a period. If, on the other hand, it says, what is the correct way to write sentences, plural, correct way, W-A-Y, so that's why I have it like that, then it's either a SAF, where the first sentence is a complete sentence and the other one is the fragment, where they forgot the subject or the predicate, or you can flip it and say that the first sentence is a fragment without the subject or the predicate, and the second one is the sentence. Now, the other P that I haven't talked about yet is a very basic thing that when you're not using a computer, and even when you are, it's for penmanship. This P here, it's in two different places. One place for the P for penmanship, you can see on the top, it's halfway below the line because it's lowercase. if it was a capital P, it would be above the line. So penmanship is important. So whether you're writing in print, what I call Iron Man, where your hands are spread out like you see there, or you're writing cursive where your fingers are touching, or whether you're typing on the computer, you still have to be concerned with capital letters, with spacing, with putting double space after periods, making sure that you give spaces, the correct spaces for all punctuation. So that's what I would call our editing conventions guide for our emergency room. In our next video, we'll talk about the essay, the other E of ER. Two E's, editing, and the essay. Two R's, revising and reading. So this is the writing doctor saying goodbye. If you like this video, it's about 17 minutes long. Please share or tag your writing and reading teacher friends, because this year in 4th and 7th grade, we're going to get 16 questions in 4th grade that are cups with 2 S's. In 7th grade, 17 questions. And in 3rd through 8th, I believe it's going to be 6 questions that will either be editing or revising. But we also have to work on our essay, so that's why I put that extra P in there. Email me at writing_doctor@yahoo.com if you have any questions, or feel free to message me in my writing club. If you type May the Fours, MAYTHEFOURS, you'll find me, my writing club, and you'll be able to click join. God bless you guys, and I hope that you have a great time with me making these writing folders with your students. For less than $5, you can get 50 of them. Goodbye and God bless.